Now, family, I'm inviting you to stay right here. Get comfortable because I have about 6 to 8 dozen rolls to make for dinner. And not for tonight's dinner. They're actually going to be for 2 days from now. But we're going to start it today and get several dozens taken care of. And then we'll let those ferment overnight. And tomorrow we'll make some more. And we'll bake some also tomorrow. So this is going to be one of those processes. It's going to take a little while to get it all done. But you've seen me do this. It's a lot of fun. And we're just going to work through the process. So sit back and enjoy. Ooh, I have 2 cups of warm milk that we're going to add to our dough mixer. Let's get it started. Top off. I'm just going to pour that in. And about a 1/4 cup of sugar. And you know, because yeast likes sugar, and we have to make this happy for the yeast. Now, I have the yeast in the refrigerator because the size container that I purchased is just large enough for what we're going to be doing. I didn't buy a gigantic one this time, but I will kind of coming up pretty quickly. Let me wipe this off. Yeah, you know, I've been thinking about some things, and we're going to talk about some of those things as we're working through our roll process. And, you know, making rolls is a homemaking type of skill. And it's a skill that many women had over the years. And it really sent me into a rabbit hole, thinking about home economics. You know, I remember taking home economics. How many of you? And it started for me down in what used to be called junior high school. And so let me add a little yeast in here, and we'll let that yeast bloom. And then we'll go from junior high into the present. Now I've got my yeast spoon. So when I use my yeast spoon, it's going to measure out 2 1/4 teaspoons, which is the exact amount of yeast that you would find in a package of yeast. And I just use this, so I'm pretty sure it's in good shape. So I'm going to add 2 of these because this is going to be a double batch. There we go. Got that in. And we're just going to let this sit for a little while. I'm actually going to turn it on. Let me plug it in. Now we're going to let this mix. And it has a process. And it kind of starts and stops along the way. So don't think that it's broke, because it's not. It's working. That's just its way of being able to maintain a good temperature inside of the container. Now, purposely, I have not added a top to it. And we want these rolls to be light and fluffy, where everyone's going to be happy and it's going to be absolutely delicious. So I've got my recipe. I'm going to stick to the recipe. Not going to put any additions to it. So we've got our 2 cups of warm milk. I've added in the 2 packages of active dried yeast, and also added a 1/4 cup of sugar, so that the yeast has something to eat upon. So I'll stop it in just a few minutes and let it bloom. Okay, now I've got it paused, and the reason for pausing it is just so everything has a chance to catch up. Now, once this is sat for a little while, and I can start to see that it's activated, then we'll go on with the rest of the recipe. But in the meantime, back to junior high. Now, in junior high school, the girls and the boys were divided into two different sections at least once per semester. And you had home ec, and you had certain classes that you took within that, under the home ec umbrella. So you learned a little bit about sewing. You learned a little bit about cooking, not a lot, because these were classes that people took. They didn't have a lot of hands-on types of things, whereas today is all about hands-on. And so at this point, we want to think about what are we doing? What are we doing? How are we best preparing our young people to become good stewards of what they have when it comes to their home? And so that's something that we're going to be talking about a lot in 2026, and working through trying to help them become the best stewards of their home that they can. So, but like I said, I went through high school. I remember the teacher, I was so excited because the teacher was going to show us and teach us how to fry an egg. And first she had everybody gather around and she demonstrated that particular day. But then we didn't get to actually cook the egg. And so we had to watch. Everybody went back to their seats. We had help. We had a book, home economics book, that we had some reading to do. And on Friday was usually kind of our certain groups would get to go into little stations, and they would have an opportunity as a group to do whatever the process was. So there were about 6, 7 of us gathered around one stove to fry one egg. So, you know, it was different, totally different from today's world. And so as you think about that, and you think about, you know, how our children are learning, are we best preparing them? And, you know, sometimes you just have to say, well, no, they still have quite a bit to do. And so in that process, so I'm taking a fork and just kind of making sure everything is well stirred. But I see lots of bubbles that are down in there. So we're ready to move on. Now next, we're going to add another 4th cup of sugar. So let me bring this back over. We're going to add our 4th cup in. Okay, got our 4th cup. This is such an easy recipe. You know, I used to think, and for our moms, it was probably a little more labor intensive because they didn't have as much technology as we do. Of course, they had mixers, but their mixers weren't the high-powered mixers that we know of today. And so when we think about our KitchenAids, I can tell you, my mom would have cut off her right arm just to have the KitchenAid that I have that's sitting over there. So we also need 2 eggs. Let me get those. And these eggs are room temperature eggs. And you want to keep the environment pretty warm. So that's the reason why we have room temperature eggs. And I have room temperature large eggs. So that's 1. And you always crack your egg on the side, away from, not on the container that you're going to put the egg in. And the reason for doing that is because of the fact that you do not want to get eggshells in your mix. So I'm going to take our fork that we've been using, and I'm going to whisk these up. And that's so that our mixer doesn't have to mix too hard. Okay, eggs are ready. I'm going to pour that in. Right, we got our 2 eggs in, and we're going to need, I'm going to add in about a 1/2 cup of butter. So I've already melted. It was softened, but I can see it's starting to set up just a little bit. So let's get this out. It's very soft, very soft. The mixer will have no problem with it whatsoever. And so there's our butter. And wipe my fingers. And we're going to mix the rest of our 1/2 cup of butter into the mix. All right, so we've got our butter in there. I have hot soapy water that I keep all the time over on the side, because you never know when you're going to need to clean up any little spills or what may have taken place. So tonight, we're going to make at least a double batch. We're going to do a batch here. I'm going to take those out, put them into a bag. I'm going to make another batch, and we'll move on tomorrow making more bread. Now, we also need, I'm going to start with, I think, 2.5 cups of flour. Now, I got my 1/2 cup measure, and so I'm going to measure the first half, and I'm going to start it again. Try to mix that portion up, and I'll start to add the flour to it, and you'll see how quickly it's going to come together. So there's the first 1/2 cup, 2, that's 1 cup, 3, 4, that's 2 cups, and we're going to put in another 1/2 cup. So what we're basically doing is making a pool. We're getting it started so that it can start to really mix. And I'm going to need lots of spatulas. So I'm going to take those out as well. Let me get a small towel. I'll just use this. And keep the spatulas there. I got my yeast because we will have to come back to that. And there's the yeast spoon, so we can use that. I bought extra flour, so should I run out, we'll have plenty of flour. Now I'm going to pause it just a second. So you can see inside our mixture right here. All right, so we're going to let this continue to mix, and I'm going to continue to add flour. Our total is going to be about 5 cups. We don't want to have too much flour. If we need more, we'll add more. So I'm going to add another 1/2 cup. That's 3 cups. That's 3.5. Okay, that's 4. And you can see it's still a little soupy in there. Now we have 4 cups that are in the mixer. So I'm going to go ahead and add 4 1/2. I'm going to stop it in just a little while, pause it, and I'm going to go around the edges, making sure that we're getting everything off the wall of the mixer. Okay, so we're going to let it mix, and I'm going to let this mix for at least a few minutes until I really start to see this dough coming together. And if we need some of that 1/2 cup, then we'll add it. At this point, I can see that we are definitely going to need more flour. So I'm going to go ahead and start a portion of this last 1/2 cup. Because what I'm hoping is that it will not require much over that 5 cups. This is a very loose dough and it's very, very moist. I'm going to add a tablespoon in. Another tablespoon. Now we have not added salt, and we're going to need 2 teaspoons of salt. So there's 1 and 2. And then on top of that, I'm going to add the rest of that 5th cup, and maybe just a tad bit extra. It's not much though. So we're going to let this run for a few minutes. And you can see that our dough is slowly coming together. It takes a little while. Oh yeah. We definitely have. Now I'm going to let our dough knead for a good 10 minutes. And once I've done that, then I'm just going to spray a plastic bag and put the dough into the bag. And before I do that, we're going to let it rise in here for about an hour and a half. And that's the first rise. Then I'll put it into the plastic bag and zip it up with just a little opening and put it into the refrigerator so that it can finish up its slow ferment in the refrigerator tonight. And then tomorrow we'll take it out and we'll be ready to actually prepare the rolls and get them into the oven. When you're working through a process like this, it does involve planning. And I had great plans for being able to keep the dough in the mixer and allowing it to rise there. But I found that in order to be more efficient, that it was better to take the dough out, give it a little bit of a hand kneading, put it into the bag, and let it do its first rise actually in the Ziploc bag on the counter. And that freed up the mixer for being able to go on to the next double batch. So when we finish making dough today, we will actually have 4 batches of rolls that are complete. And not all the way complete, but at least the dough portion will be complete. And then from there, we'll put them into the refrigerator, let them sleep and ferment for the night. And tomorrow morning, we will be ready to take that dough out and get it prepared and into the pan so that we can bake it. I will probably do another batch. Don't hold me to it, but we may do another batch of rolls as well. I just want to see how they're going to come out and how many I think we're going to need for dinner. All right, so I've sprayed our bag, and we're just going to knead this a little bit out here on the bench and take away a little bit of the stickiness. It is a very soft dough. And it's funny, I think it's because the kitchen is so warm that this batch is a little bit softer even than the first batch. But the kitchen is very, very warm today because of the fact it just happened to warm up. But we've got cold weather coming in, so there we go. All right, so that's, oh man, this feels so good. So soft, easy to work with. Okay, we're going to put our dough into the bag, and here's the first bag. You can see that it has been rising quite nicely. That's the first bag, and I'm going to go ahead and put that into the refrigerator. And I'm going to give this about an hour to start to double, and then I'll place it into the refrigerator for the night for it to sleep. Okay, there it goes. Let's get it into our bag. Okay. We're going to zip it up, leave about 1 inch airspace, and bag number 2, batch number 2, is ready to go. So here's batch number 1. I'm going to turn it over so you can see batch number 1, and you can see batch number 2. So you can see that batch number 2 has quite a ways to grow. We've got batch number 1 that has been rising while this one was getting prepared, and this is the batch that we just put into the bag. So this one's ready for the refrigerator to sleep, and in about an hour this one will be ready to also sleep for the night. I'll see you in the morning. Well, good morning. We are ready for a very busy day, and we're going to be making another batch of bread, but not right now. But what I wanted you to see, our bread, went into the refrigerator last night, and I let it long ferment overnight, and it is quite nice and puffy. it is ready to go. So one bag of this, I'm going to go ahead and take out today, and we're going to put it together. And so I'll be making another one, and I may even make a bowl of some cranberry walnut bread. We'll play around with that. I'm not sure I'll get to it, but we'll see how the schedule goes. But I thought, you know, I think I'll take this batch and let it come to temperature, and then what we'll be able to do is to, I'm going to make a couple of pans of it, and I'm going to share some of this with someone else. And we'll be ready to get started. This back in the fridge. Okay, now my counter is clean. I had already cleaned that off, but just in case, we're giving another little wipe just to make sure nothing has dropped out of the sky. And we're going to put down just a tiny bit of flour. Sorry, I need that fan. Just a little. We shouldn't need a lot. And I'm going to need my hands. You know, I like to use my cast iron. So I got them here. Let me spray them before I put them over there. Spray. And let's take our bread out of the bag. Oh man, it feels so good. Watch. I'm just going to sit this bag off to the side because we're going to need it again, because I'm going to put more bread in tonight. Oh, how pretty. Oh, feels so good. Well, it's still pretty cold, so it's going to take a little while for it to warm up. But what we're going to do is, I can't find anything this morning, and I know it in my
to
hand.
secure the bags in a tray.
Well, let me get it.
And the reason for that is that I've had one time when the bag decided that it was going to open, and that next morning I found that I had bread dough
I just
all
brought two
over
of them,
my
two bench
refrigerator
graders.
because
the
it
best
had just
things in the
really
world to
grown
have.
very
Now
quietly
I'm going to
overnight.
cut this.
And so because of that, I try to
Log.
wrangle it
I'm
in the
gonna start
tray.
out.
So we're going
I
to get the
typically
tray
cut it
washed
into
out and ready to
thirds.
go. Once we
First third.
get that done, both of
Roll
these
that over.
bags are going to go into the refrigerator, and they're going to be in there to sleep for the night.
Second third, and of course the last one. Because these rolls, we're not going to have to make so large. So I'm just going to sit those off to the side, leave that one there, and sit these off there. And I've still got enough flour down, I think, to keep it from doing a lot of sticking. But we'll put just a tiny bit more. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to actually roll it. And the reason for doing that, you're going to see a nice long log. Okay, you're going to see a nice long log. And what we're going to do is we're going to start in the middle, about half, and I'm going to break off about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so that's going to be 12. sticks. I don't want these to be too terribly large because we're going to be eating them for Thanksgiving, and I'm not going to make them real fancy, but what I am going to do, I'm going to try to roll them here so you can see. I'm going to get them rolled out. And you kind of have to apply a little pressure between your thumb and your hand. And press down. And you end up with a nice, fairly smooth top. That's what we're looking for. And we're going to put that right over here in the pan. So I'm going to hold on to this one because I think he could stand having a little bit more. But these are going to rise very nicely. All right, the pans are filled. This is going to be the baby one, probably the one. We'll take one out and share together once it's ready. But you can see this one's already starting to spread out. So I'm going to put these on the stove. It's nice and warm over there. And we're going to cover them with a towel so that nothing will fall on them. Let's get them covered. It is so nice and warm over here. The oven's warming up. And it shouldn't take them long to rise. There we go. Keep those right there. I'm going to do a few more things in the kitchen. And once these have risen, we'll come back and we'll put them in the oven together. Well, our rolls are coming along quite nicely. They've still got about 30 more minutes to rise. And this is a very nice warm spot for them. And remember that little baby pan that looks so pitiful? Well, he's not going to look pitiful once he completes his rising. So we're going to let them finish up. I'm going to cover them back again. Let them sit for about 30 minutes before we put them into the oven. Now, you know, we put butter in them, but I'm going to take just a little bit of butter and brush across the top. And I may have to melt this just a little more because I don't want to, I just want to touch on top of each one before I put this pan into the oven. And because this was the first one, of course, it's ready. And we're going to get it in. Let me check my oven and see if it's clear. And of course it's not. I keep pans in the oven all the time. So we're going to take this one and we're going to put it in. I've set the oven, it's on 375. I'm going to keep an eye on it because I don't want them to get too brown, because I know that tomorrow on Thanksgiving that we're going to want to run them into the oven, let them brown just a little bit more, get them nice and hot, and they'll be ready to go. Well, the two cast iron pans are ready to go. And the baby pan, as you saw, was also ready. So I'm just going to cover these up, let them continue to cool. And when I come back, we'll be ready to package them. Remember, we had that third batch of roll dough that we had made, and it has been fermenting in the refrigerator over the past day or so. And I decided, okay, I'm going to take it out, but we're not going to make rolls with it. We're going to do something just a little bit different. So take a few moments, get comfortable, because we're going to have the most amazing breakfast, snack, or dessert that you would love to have. So the first thing I'm going to do is just sprinkle the counter a little bit with some flour. I just need a little. And since the dough is already fermented and ready to go, it's just a matter of putting it all together. So remember we sprayed our bag. So I'm going to give this a chance to see if I can get it out easily. And we'll take it out and get it ready. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's out and ready to go. I'm going to put just a little bit of flour on my hands and on the top of the dough. And we're just going to knead just a little bit, just because we want to bring this all together. Now, what I thought, you know, my family would probably enjoy getting up to a morning of some cinnamon rolls. That's something we like. So that's exactly what I'm going to put together, some cinnamon rolls. So I've got the dough. It's nice and cold, so it should cooperate quite nicely. Okay, a little sprinkle. I'll get the rolling pin and we'll be set and ready to go. Now I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of flour on the rolling pin, and we're going to roll this out into a rectangle. Let me see if I can get you a little better view. There we go. And if it starts to draw back up on you, just give it a minute or so and let it relax. There we go. You know, this is the fun part of being your family's home economist, because you get to think about all the fun things that you can prepare for the family, and you get to test out recipes and see what they really like. And once you find those things, then you're going to want to prepare those a little more frequently. Now, this is a little decadent, so you may not want to do this as often, but it is a great, great opportunity for you to be able to bring your family into the kitchen and have a nice big smile. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this a moment here. I'm going to get some melted butter and lots of cinnamon, and I think I'm going to add some pecans. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is take some melted butter and just brush it on all over. And you can leave a little edge around the border of it. But you know, it smells so good. Fresh bread, there's nothing like it. Okay, so we've got plenty of melted butter all around it. I'll set that off to the side. Now, we're going to need some brown sugar. You know, I've got my little sugar bear down in there. Don't want to get a hand. And we're going to sprinkle brown sugar. Come on in, you're not in my way. Unless you're coming over here to the bread.
I need to get my cup.
You're not in the way, that's what I'm telling you. They can't see you. And I cut that portion out anyway when I'm editing. Have a chicken wing. An egg. Okay, we got cinnamon, brown sugar. I'm going to add just a little more brown sugar. I know there's never enough brown sugar. Got our butter, all the good stuff. Okay, now here comes the treat. I'm going to be using some of my Priester's pecans, and we're going to sprinkle pecans all over our dough. And I'd say the amount of pecans that you put in yours is really up to you and what your family likes. You may opt to use almonds rather than pecans, or you may opt not to use a nut at all. But this is what I'm doing for my family because I know they like it. Okay. Now, are we ready? Yes, we are. Let's get this started. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to roll it up pretty tight. Once we get it started, then we can just continue to roll it over. It takes a little bit to get it going. Let me get my scraper. little sticky. And just a little flour. So I can handle it. Bring that over. And all this together. Push the ends in so that nothing will run out. So there's our log. It sticks a little bit, just put a little flour and continue to roll it until you get him flipped over. There we go. All right, so our baby's ready. And you can give him a little more roll so he can stretch out just a little bit further. Okay, we're gonna get our pan and get these into the oven. But you know what we want to do first. We want to let them rise. So I'm going to actually use this as my cutter. I think it might work. It should. Sometimes people will use dental floss to cut their cinnamon rolls, and that choice is up to you. I'm making mine about 1 inch deep because I know they still have to rise. Okay, okay, I've got our pan here. Let's sit right there. I'm gonna give it a little spray because we don't want any of this to really stick. And I don't know how many I'll get in here, but we'll see. Okay, there's one. And two. Three. And if 6. There we go, number 6 for the center. Now a little bit of sugar, brown sugar, a little bit of nuts. I'm just gonna sprinkle those around to give it a little extra. There we go. Now I'm gonna set these off to the side, cover them so they can rise. This is a small one, so I'm going to put that in the center. Two. Three. 4. And 5. There we go. Any extras? I'll sprinkle there. And I think this one right here, I'm going to give him a little extra love. So give him a little brown sugar, extra brown sugar, and maybe a few extra nuts. He just looks like he needs a little extra love there. Okay, Now, so we've got a little bit left over here. And actually, I'm gonna roll this one back out. Now we know he has a little bit of butter on him, but I'm gonna put a little extra. We're gonna add some brown sugar to it because it was that little end piece. And so we've added the brown sugar. We're gonna add a little more cinnamon to him. And of course, he's gonna have to have a little bit of nut. And then we'll roll him up and he'll be ready for the other skillet. All right, there he goes, right there, ready to go. Now, let me get the other skillet. Now we have to bring the baby in. Okay, so it's gonna go here, here, there, there. See if we can get him in, and there. And I think I'll do the same thing to this end. I'm just going to press him out. Add just a little more butter. Add a little bit of brown sugar. Sprinkle a little cinnamon. And, of course, Priestess pecans have to go in there. All those little extras are going to go in there. Press those in. Okay. Now we're going to roll it up. Okay, great. That's great. See if I can get 2 little baby ones in. That's 1 and 2. All right, we're gonna put these over on the stove where it's warm. I'm gonna let these rise. It's gonna take at least an hour. And once we do that, we're gonna be ready for putting them into the oven. And I think you guys are gonna be pretty excited to have homemade cinnamon rolls. Ready to go. Nice and mixed. We're going to need vanilla, and we're going to need a little milk. In our bowl, I have 3 cups of powdered sugar, a half cup of butter that's melted, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of milk. And we'll adjust that according to how dry the powdered sugar is. But we wanted a nice, smooth, fluffy consistency. Now, let's see how we're doing here. I want it light. Flavor's good, and it's nice and light. We're ready. So, when those cinnamon rolls come out of the oven, we're going to add this delicious icing to them. Now let's spread some of this delicious icing over these rolls. All three pans are out of the oven. I'm going to flip this one out. Hopefully I'll be able to do it without making a total mess. I kind of made a mess with this one trying to get it out, but I'm going to let it sit here for just a few minutes and make sure that the rolls are nice and set up, and then I'll take it out and put it on the rack so that it can cool as well. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to go over here and get the smallest one from that first batch. See if I can take him out nicely. Oh yeah, he's pulling out quite nice. Oh, nice and light. Nice and light. Let's get a fork and let's dive in. Now, you know, we did something a little special with these in that we added the Priester's pecans to it. Honey, I know the big guy's gonna love this. They're so light. Still warm, but the flavor is perfect. Now, I'm only gonna eat half, and I'm gonna take the other half to the big guy and let him enjoy. Try it. Never be afraid to step out of the box when you're in your kitchen and you've got available resources to be able to use. This is delicious. And it was made with that extra batch of dough that we put together. I don't know. Maybe the big guy's gonna have to have one of these other ones, because I think I'm gonna finish this off. I'm gonna give me a little coffee and we're gonna be ready to go.